Hi, everyone. Welcome. As you're all jumping on, thanks so much for jumping on to our class tonight. So we'll get started in about a minute or two. We'll just let people kind of hop on here. But I can see everybody joining right now. All right. So while you're all waiting, if you want to start chatting in the chat box, go ahead and you can actually make your messages either just to Betsy and I, or you can actually do it to everyone. So, hi, y'all. We got a y'all from the deep south of Mississippi. Jade. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. I love that. To jumpstart our evening of our Aura Cacia's virtual class. So, all right, we got about 30 of you already. That's great. And it keeps getting higher. Yeah, so let us know where you're joining us from. We love to hear where everyone is tuning in around the country. We get ones from Canada too. So, all right, Minnesota, Michigan. Oh, wow. All right, NOLA, Denver, Ohio, Colorado, Idaho, Cedar Rapids. So we got a local one to where Aura Cacia is headquartered. And Chicagoland. Oh, that's great. Another Minnesota. That's where I'm from. So I'm tuning in from Minnesota. We got another Iowa, DC, Northern Michigan, California. There's Windsor, Ontario. See, we welcome our Canadian friends as well. And Betsy was actually just up in Canada for a trade show. So maybe you saw her at the show if you attended. And another Minnesota. All right, Minnesota and Iowa, another Iowa, Colorado, Virginia, all over the place. I love to see where everybody's tuning in from because it's just so fun. You know, back in the day, actually, before I get started, so back in the day, Betsy and I actually used to tour all around the United States, giving classes in stores typically. So we go to the local co-ops or your natural grocers store, different Fresh Time, Sprouts, wherever, and we got to do one class at a time, which was so much fun. I always enjoy doing the classes in stores, but it's only one at a time in one little area, and then you move on to the next. And I just love how now we're doing them online, and we get to see everybody tuning in from all over the place all at once. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have another Boca Raton and Northern Virginia. So thanks so much for tuning in. This is an exciting class that we're doing tonight. So it's debunking essential oil myths. So this is your chance to ask all of your questions, all of your essential oil questions. If you heard from a friend this random fact about essential oils and you want to know if it's true or not, this is the time to ask. So go ahead if you want to start putting those into the chat, or if you think of ones along the way, feel free to jump in. We'll maybe do some Q&A towards the end too. There's time. But we're going to cover a few of the most common essential oil myths that we hear about constantly. So I've been an essential oil educator. So first of all, I'm Elena Mercurio. And if you haven't seen my face around in a few months, that is because I was on maternity leave. So I had a baby in December. Her name is Aurora, and she was born right around the solstice. So kind of makes sense for being a Minnesota baby and the Aurora Borealis lights that we have in the winter. And so thank you. But Betsy took over all the classes for the past few months for me. So she's now back in the chat and I'm back on the screen with all of you. So I'm very excited to be back. Question about recording. Yes. So we do record all of these classes. We actually are putting them on YouTube afterwards. So all of our classes are free to tune in live every month. We love that you're here. But if you happen to miss a month, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. It is Aura Cacia Aromatherapy on YouTube. Subscribe to that, and you can get all of the recordings and watch them back over and over, all that you want. So make sure to do that. Yes. Let's see. Oh, that's a great question. There's a lady on TikTok that says you should only use clinical pharmaceutical grade. Is that an actual thing? That is exactly what we'll be covering tonight. So that is perfect for starting off. But before I start off, I do want to say, if you do have any medical questions, that's something that we can't answer because, Betsy and I aren't doctors, so we can't actually give any medical advice. And, we have limitations with the FDA as well by making therapeutic claims too. So we can't really go into therapeutic and medical uses. That's just for kind of liability reasons and for the scope of what we're allowed to do. But it doesn't mean necessarily that essential oils don't do certain things. We just can't always talk about that. So that's something that, might be a little bit confusing out there when you hear about people using them in very functional medical ways. And we have to talk about them a little bit differently. So just to start off by saying that. But let's get into those grading terminologies, because that is a big one. That's a big topic that, we get asked all the time, and it just keeps coming up. And so a big one is, what is pharmaceutical grade or clinical grade? Let's see, there is medicinal grade, because we were talking about medical uses. All of those are actually just marketing terms that companies made up on their bottle just to make it sound like they have a better essential oil, unfortunately. So there's actually no organization in existence that grades essential oils into different categories. So all of those are just made up. An essential oil is an essential oil. And what the difference is between, grades. So food grade is a thing, and we will get into that next. But when it comes to pharmaceutical grade, that means that they most likely sell in a pharmacy, and that they just decided to make a claim on their bottle that says we're pharmaceutical grade because we sell in a pharmacy. And it just sounds better. So, I would totally believe that. Oh, this is the highest grade possible if it's pharmaceutical grade, whatever that means. But really, as an essential oil, where the true purity comes in is the where it is grown in the world. So it really matters where an essential oil is grown, and that's why we try to source all over the world in the native plant regions where each essential oil is native to and grows really well. And then it gets freshly picked. Things like lavender is native to Europe, and it actually, things like climate and other things can change things around, but we've seen the highest quality lavender essential oil growing in Eastern Europe because it actually needs sort of a mountain to grow on. It needs a little bit of a cliff, just like wine. If you've ever studied wine at all, usually the western side of countries, and growing off of a hill is usually makes for better grapes. And so there's similar things with lavender as well. I'm not a wine expert, so maybe that didn't come off the most expert with wine, but I do know I've taken some wine classes enough to know that It really makes a difference in where wine is grown in different regions. And the same thing is true with essential oils as well. So when we're growing lavender in Eastern Europe, we get those higher constituents of linalool and linalool acetate. And those, when we're diffusing them, when we're using them for massage, in our bath, that's what we're breathing in and getting through our dermal layer of our skin when we're putting it on our skin, diluted, which we'll also talk about. But that is what changes our brain waves and actually puts us into a more relaxed and more meditative state. It really does, those are real chemical constituents inside that make the difference. So that is the difference, is the origin, the sourcing. The distillation also has to do with what is a higher quality essential oil. So the distillation really matters as well. So if it is freshly picked, it's not like you take the lavender and then you have to ship it across the world and then do the distillation. You're going to lose a lot of that essential oil. You're going to lose some of those constituents. So also a lot of times we take, the essential oils get distilled either on the farm or very close to it. So we definitely, that makes a difference in the purity. And then of course, because all of that is happening all over the world, we have a whole sourcing team that actually travels all over the world to see all the farms themselves, and then take those little samples to make sure that it's exactly the same that we're getting in the big barrel bats that we get shipped to us in Iowa. And then once we get them shipped to us in Iowa too, we test every single batch just to make sure it's exactly what we expect, that there has been nothing changed, that it is only the pure essential oil in there and all the constituents are there that we would expect them to be. We're a spice company as well, so we do all the testing on the spices, and that really is advantageous to us being a spice company as well as an essential oil company. We've been able to see that, so we actually got a bag of peppermint on our spice side, and we did the testing on that, and we saw that it actually had some spearmint constituents in there when we did the testing. And because we know the spearmint constituents and peppermint constituents in our essential oils, because we have those GCMS tests, then we figured out that it was a mixed bag of peppermint and spearmint together. So that really helps us both on the spice side as well as the essential oil side to know that we can distill those peppermint leaves that we get and compare it to our peppermint essential oil. So it's pretty cool once you get into the science. I know I'm getting a little into that, but that's what really matters when it comes to essential oils. So if you're, we hope you're all big, huge fans of Aura Cacia essential oils, but this is the questions to ask, not are your essential oils therapeutic grade, pharmaceutical grade, clinical grade, because all those, it just means that they just made it up on their bottle. What really matters is, where did you source these essential oils? Did you test your oils? And how is it distilled? Because that can really make a difference. So those are the questions that really matter when it comes to purity. So you hear about therapeutic grade a lot too. That gets thrown around. And all essential oils, because of the chemical constituents, actually are therapeutic in nature. Whether they help us with our mood, whether they help us on our skin or body, if it's a true essential oil and it's not synthetic or a fake oil, then it really will help us therapeutically. So they're all really, if you sell it in a clinic or a pharmacy, if you sell it and put therapeutic grade on there, it all really means that it is an essential oil, because that is what essential oils can do for us. But unfortunately, all those terms, just marketing, aren't companies sneaky? So we try not to put those terminologies on our bottle, but I know that can be really confusing out there, because we see so much of that. And it's hard because we've actually gone back and forth about putting that on our bottle because you hear from friends that you should only get therapeutic grade essential oils. And, so are we missing out if we're not putting that on our bottle? But we really try to be very transparent and kind of be the true educators. So you're coming here to really understand essential oils and what they truly are, what they really can do for us, which is so many things. But we, of course, this is why Betsy and I do what we do every month by giving you information like this so that you don't have to look for that. But what you do look for is, good companies that are doing the right thing. So, all right. So that is getting into the therapeutic grade. So food grade is a whole other issue. So when it comes to food grade is a real thing. We obviously see that. And it is very regulated when it comes to food grade not organizations, but food grade facilities. So really food grade has to do with the facility that something is bottled in. It really has nothing to do with what's inside of it at all. So you can bottle, bleach in a food grade facility and call it food grade bleach. But would you want to be drinking bleach? Not a great idea. So that is also a very misleading thing when it comes to the essential oil world. I just had a friend the other day that found out that I work for Aura Cacia, and she got very excited and said, "Oh, I need to know what oils would be good to put in my water." And again, I've answered this a lot of time, many, many times. But it's a very out there thing that you hear about a lot is using essential oils as a flavoring agent, or ingesting it for therapeutic reasons, or cooking with it instead of spices. So when it comes to ingestion of essential oils, after the distillation, so let's take rosemary, for example. If you're going to cook with rosemary, it takes about 500 pounds of rosemary leaves to make not even a pound of rosemary essential oil. So even a few drops, you could be taking in a ton of rosemary. And the constituents are in there. So these are, when we're talking about the therapeutic action of essential oils, they are real chemicals inside essential oil bottles. And taking in even just a few drops in your water or in your cooking, you could be taking in just a ton of plant matter. And that's kind of a scary thing when it comes to processing in your liver and your kidneys and your whole organ system. It's really taxing internally. And many people don't realize that. So people don't realize how concentrated essential oils are, and that a little goes a long way when it comes to essential oils. And that's the great thing about them. So you really only a few drops. I know sometimes it can be like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend $20 on a bottle of essential oil. But typically we have 300 to 350 drops in here. And you only need a few drops at a time, and it really can make a difference for you. And so that's the great thing about oil, but we want to use them safely. So when it comes to lemon, for example, this is the best thing to squeeze into your water, a lemon wedge. So you're getting the whole fruit and you're squeezing in the fruit. So you're getting the citric acid, the vitamin C. That is the stuff that's good for you, which is found in the fruit part and not necessarily the rind. So when we distill essential oils for citrus oils, specifically, we distill the rind only. We get it from the juicing industry sometimes as a byproduct, and we take the rind and we squeeze out all the essential oil from the rind. And so even a few drops of water or a few drops of an essential oil in my water, I could be taking in pounds and pounds of lemon peel. And I don't want to be drinking lemon peel. You sometimes you'll scrape a little bit of lemon peel for flavoring on like cakes or different when you're cooking. Um, and it's just a little zest. You don't want to be putting pounds and pounds of zest into your cooking because then it would just be overpowering and it's just too much. And that is the same thing for in your water or ingestion wise. It's just too much. And so the other thing about essential oils is um, essential, it's essential oil in name, but they're volatile oils. So when we smell a rose, that is the aromatic constituents of the plant. So you're not getting the whole plant, you're just getting the volatile oils that kind of evaporate easily. So when you put essential oils just on a piece of paper, you can try this at home. So just put a few drops of lavender oil on a piece of paper and wait half hour, an hour, and come back. And you can see that the essential oil just completely evaporates. There's usually no residue at all. And so with some of them, you'll see like a citrus oil sometimes, like a sweet orange, maybe a geranium, patchouli sometimes. But with most of them, it completely evaporates and you don't see any residue. And so they also, they're the aromatics. So you're not getting the whole plant is what I'm trying to come to. So really when it comes to your water or ingestion, if you're looking for that whole plant experience, you want to be using the herb itself. So use the real rosemary, use the peppermint in your tea, and then use tinctures if you're looking for more of that therapeutic action when it comes to herbs. Because again, essential oil, it's just a part of the plant. It's not the whole plant itself. And then another component when it comes to ingestion and talking about internal use of essential oils is the nature of essential oils. So they are still an oil. They're different than a carrier oil, but they will just float right on top of your water. So also you're not mixing into your water when you're adding essential oil drops. You'll see they just float right on top if I added any essential oil to this, which I'm not going to do. But you would see that they just sit there on top. So if I'm taking a drink, I'm taking undiluted oils because they're not mixing in with my water. And so that's another thing is it can leave burns internally because citrus oils especially can they're great cleaners. I love cleaning with them, but they can actually, they're very strong and can actually, because of the acid, it really can kind of burn on the inside and leave those esophagus or stomach lining. It can just disrupt our gut flora even as well. So we don't want to be doing that. So you're best off with your lemon wedge. So that is a big component when it comes to food grade. So food grade, again, let's recap. Food grade refers to the facility that something is bottled in, and it has nothing to do with the essential oil. So if you see that on a label that, oh, these essential oils are food grade, they must be better. It has nothing to do with that at all. It means that they were bottled in a food grade facility. And because we're a spice company too, if I keep bringing that up, but I'm not saying, so Frontier Co-op is our parent company. So we have Frontier Spices and we also have Simply Organic. That is both of our spice brands. And we do have separate facilities for them down in Iowa. But I've walked through our spice bottling, and I've walked through our essential oil bottling, and it really is the same. The only difference is the paperwork. We filled out the paperwork for Simpler Organic and Frontier because that's a food bottling spice facility. And we purposely did not want a food grade facility for essential oils because we don't want people to misuse them and to use them in harmful ways. So the herb and the tinctures and the whole fruit, that is the best for internal use. And essential oils are best for aromatic use, using them in a diffuser, using them in a spray, and then on our skin with carrier oils. So those are the big grading topics. I hope I know that's a lot of information to take in, just on the grading terminologies alone. But any questions so far? I think I've been seeing the chat just like going crazy. So I don't know if Betsy has any that she wants me to answer, but it looks like she's doing a great job answering. Oh, yes. So Betsy did put into the chat that when it comes to our purity and testing, to know exactly our testing, we actually are publishing them now. So you can go to our quality page and look for our testing, our GCMS test. And you can see, you can pull up the lavender, you can pull up your peppermint, and you can see all of the constituents that pop up. And it's kind of fun to start digging into those. All right, so the next question that I wanted to talk, or the next myth that I wanted to talk about is, some people talk about essential oils are so pure, you can use them undiluted on the skin. And we also hear things about using lavender as a carrier oil. So let's talk about purity a little bit more when it comes to essential oils. So if anybody has heard of the rainbow massage, I've heard that used in some essential oil groups. And what that is putting a high number of undiluted essential oils down your spine or along your back. And that's a very scary thing when it comes to a practitioner, from a practitioner viewpoint, just knowing what essential oils are. And if you're talking about purity, that could mean more, like to me, that means more concentration. And you would actually want to do the opposite. The more pure something is, you would want to dilute it a little bit more, especially with how concentrated essential oils are. So let's take wintergreen for an example. So wintergreen is a wonderful essential oil for massage because it is almost 100% pure methyl salicylate. So methyl salicylate is the active ingredient that you'll see in conventional muscle rubs. And you'll look and you'll see extra strength methyl salicylate like 10% or 20%, which is very strong. But that is, again, diluted to 10 to 20% at most. And so when an essential oil wintergreen is 100% methyl salicylate, you definitely want to be diluting it, because otherwise it'll, again, burn and not in a good way and make you feel better when it comes to your massage. So the question that we have for purity. So it is so pure, you can use it undiluted. Well, again, you're putting that highly, highly concentrated plant onto your skin. And it is different than a carrier oil. So we've heard of, people have talked about using lavender as a carrier oil or using lavender undiluted on the skin. Here and there, it can be okay. We don't but we really don't want to recommend any undiluted use of essential oils because how concentrated they are. If you didn't tune in last month, Betsy did a wonderful job at explaining carrier oils. So that's up on our YouTube channel. So carrier oils are these lipid fat oils. They are the heavy oils. So we talked about using essential oils or doing that test at home where you take a piece of paper, drop a few drops, and then leave it for an hour and you see it just completely disappear. If you did that with your carrier oils, your skincare oils, totally different. You would definitely see that residue. And that is because we want that nourishing, protecting part of the fatty oils to work with our essential oils. It actually acts as like a time release into our skin. It slows down the absorption into our skin with our essential oils. So that's why skincare oils work hand in hand with essential oils, but very, very different than an essential oil. Essential oil, again, is those tiny, tiny molecules that just evaporate into the air. We can't really breathe in at all. We can't breathe in avocado oil or sesame oil. That would be very difficult to do. It doesn't pass the blood-brain barrier like it does with essential oils. So it's a very different chemical makeup. And that's why we need to use skincare oils when we're using it on our skin to dilute. So, in the case of using those rainbow or raindrop technique, I guess I've heard both, is putting those undiluted oils. And a lot of times I hear people talking about it detoxing your body. And also we hear something about, if your skin is burning, that means that you're detoxing and you actually need to use more. Again, that is the opposite of what we want to be doing. So if you're having a reaction like that actually you're putting too much into your system. Like again, we talked about knowing how concentrated these are, 75 times more concentrated than the herb or the tincture. Very extreme when we're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds, sometimes in your essential oil bottle, compared to just a few shakes of a spice bottle. It's very different. And so again, all that absorption into our skin, it does pass into our blood through our dermal layers and into our bloodstream. And so it is getting into our bloodstream. It's also a skin reactant to, certain people are more sensitive to their, you can have an allergic reaction as well as a sensitization. So those are two different things, but both can be true when it comes to essential oils. So you do want to be careful. If you are allergic to a certain plant, I would stay away or, steer clear of that essential oil if you know that to be true. Because, it kind of is just a common sense thing, but sometimes people don't connect the dots always when it comes to essential oils. So there is the allergic reaction that you can have with a skin reaction, but then there is that sensitization. And that definitely can happen when it comes to essential oils. So just because they're natural and wonderful things, they do wonderful things. But you can build up a sensitivity to anything really, and it can be too much. Even water, if you drink enough water, that can be toxic. So as needed as water is and good for us, there's always a level of too much. And so the same thing with essential oils, we definitely want to be diluting them when we're using them because of the concentration. So if you hear about somebody saying the essential oil, you can use them undiluted, actually the opposite would be true. So if they're claiming their oils to be more pure, whatever that means, because if you either put it in a carrier oil or added something to it to make it not pure, or it is the essential oil, you would definitely want to dilute it. So that is the question on purity and using lavender as a carrier oil. Nope, not a thing. And also about skin detoxing. So if you're detoxing, you're taking away things from your body. So when people talk about doing a detox, food wise, a lot of times they just have like soups or veggies and a lot of water just to kind of flush your system out. When you're adding essential oils, you're adding chemicals to your body. They are natural, of course, they're natural plant essences, but they are real chemicals. So we do want to have that in mind when we're using essential oils, that you are actually adding to your body system and not taking away. So it, again, is the opposite of a detox. All right. Let's see. Yes. So Betsy is answering all the questions. That's awesome. And she is talking about our how many drops to dilute. That's great to cover. So when it comes to, oh, this one, I picked up the wrong bottle. So this one actually, I did want to talk about, we do have ones that are pre-diluted. This is an older label, but it is our yellow label and it'll say ready to use. That's our newest label. But it still has like a yellow strip on it. It says ready to use because it is the essential oil that has been pre-diluted in jojoba oil, which is a carrier oil. And so that means that you can use actually these essential oils directly out of the bottle because they have been pre-diluted safely. You do want to be careful when it comes to using them in your diffuser though. I use them sparingly because of that carrier oil. You don't want to be diffusing carrier oil so much and it can kind of gunk up your diffuser sometimes. But that is the only essential oil line that we have that is pre-diluted in a carrier oil. So you actually can use those directly out of the bottle. But if it's not pre-diluted, how do you know how much to use? So we actually do have, let's see if I can find one. All right, so I have Cypress here. And we have a label that pulls out. It's exciting. I love showing off. Sometimes when we've gone store to store and people have worked in a store for years and not realized that we actually have a pull-out label now. So we have a dilution table on all of our bottles. So if you just pull out that label, there's a little arrow and it peels back. You can see exactly how many drops to put in your essential or into your products. So if you have like a facial serum that you want to make or hair serum, or I want to make a room spray, or I want to use it in my diffuser, we actually put for face, for body, and for air care or diffusion. Sometimes cleaning we'll add. We also have a quick tip so you can just make a simple recipe. And then we have another recipe right there. We also have what it's used for, which just kind of helps to let you know if your friend told you to use lavender and you've never used it in your life. And that is some really helpful information right on our label. We also try, of course, to give the sourcing, where it's grown, and a little bit more about the essential oil, but it's a tiny little bottle. We really fit a lot of information on there, but I definitely recommend you to take a little bit closer look at that. But that's a great source of helpful information when it comes to how much to dilute when you're using in your products. We also have a ton of recipes on auracacia.com. So that's another great resource. So yes, I just want to we're kind of wrapping up a little bit. But any other, let's see, is there any other questions that I can answer? It looks like Betsy is doing an awesome job at answering your questions. Thank you so much. So yeah, we just had someone that loves all the details on the label. So we appreciate that a lot, hearing that feedback, because we really try to educate and give you the most information. We try not to hide anything. We try to just say, this is what an essential oil is. it's not, this crazy, I mean, we would love to say, I mean, we are in love with essential oils because they do so many wonderful things. But I always joke about saying we should call them unicorn grade essential oils because they're just magic oils that do so many wonderful things. But we don't say that. We don't go above and beyond our scope of what we can really say about essential oils, and we try to give you that true education. But let's recap. So when we talked about grading myths, so food grade is a thing, but it comes to regulating by the facility itself and not having to do with the actual products. So you do have to be careful when you're looking at food grade products. Is that actually something that I want to be ingesting or not? Because some companies bottle their essential oils in a food grade facility, but it doesn't always mean that it's a good idea to be ingesting that. Now that you know how concentrated essential oils are, that is only a small part of the plant and you're not getting that whole benefit of the herb. When it comes to therapeutic grade, pharmaceutical grade, clinical grade, all of those grading terminologies are just marketing. They just made them up to make them sound better. And then we have purity. So when it comes to purity, what really matters is where it's sourced, where it's tested, and how it's distilled. The more pure of an essential oil, the more you want to be diluting it in a carrier oil or diluting it in, your diffuser or room spray or other carrier things like a witch hazel, many different carriers, not just oils, but of course oils work the best on our skin, and especially with your skin. You want to take care of it, and you don't want to cause, burns from those oils. When somebody is telling you that you're detoxing and you're actually adding to the chemical load of your body, you're doing the opposite of what people are telling you sometimes, unfortunately. And just because it's natural, it doesn't always mean that it's chemical free, that it's non-toxic, because even water is H2O, it's a chemical, and it can be toxic at a certain level. You can build up a sensitivity to anything. And so we do want to be mindful, especially with the concentration of essential oils. They're super beneficial in so many ways to help us relax, to help us with our skincare, but we don't want to be using too much at a time. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned lots tonight. But thank you all so much. So next class is our Mother's Day class. And I'm actually going to be running that as well because Betsy did the last few. I'm taking a couple in a row. So you get to see my face again next month. That's going to be a really fun class. Just some fun ideas for Mother's Day. Me being a new mom, it's my first official Mother's Day. So we'll have some fun mothers related recipes just for yourself or for your mom or for a friend. So that's just going to be a ton of fun. Thank you so much for joining all of our classes. Yeah, stay tuned. So on social media, you can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. So we give out some fun recipe ideas. You can stay tuned for all of our monthly classes that way. And of course, on YouTube is all of our previous ones. And all right, so we'll see you next month, or we'll see you online. You can always ask us questions through the DMs and things too. Our social people will get those questions to us. So thanks so much, and have a great rest of your evening.